Let's talk about this Auburn football team. I want to do kind of a statistical overpass of this team. You know the record. They're 3-2 thus far. It's been an up and down year. A nice win against Ole Miss, followed a bad loss against South Carolina, in which they just didn't look like they were as good as South Carolina. But let's look at, now that we are halfway through this SEC season, let's dive into the numbers. Let's see where they rank relative to their peers, and then see how we feel about this Auburn Tiger football team. I actually feel pretty good at the onset here. So Auburn right now in scoring offense, they're 8th in the SEC, 24 points a game. In scoring defense, they're 3rd in the SEC, giving up just 25 points per game, which, if that doesn't give you an idea of what a conference-only schedule does in an offensive age, to average scoring 25 points a game is 3rd in the SEC. When would you have ever seen that in a normal year?
No, you wouldn't.
Sorry, I thought you were putting the mic in front of you there.
You wouldn't.
Total offense right now, Auburn's 9th, 385 per game. Rushing attack, they're 6th, 160. Not very good through the air. They're just 10th in passing, averaging just 220 yards a game. In total defense, they're 6th, giving up 400 yards per game. It looks like they've not been very good at stopping the run this year. They are 12th. They give up nearly 180, so nearly 200 yards per game. So when you look at the rushing success of LSU last week, both Ty Davis-Price and John Emery, probably John Emery mainly, even though Ty Davis-Price ended up with the better volume by game's end. But Coach O's been very clear. He views both those guys as 1A and 1B interchangeably. But when you look at the rushing success that last week and what it meant for the offensive game plan as a whole, what it meant for taking pressure off of TJ Finley's shoulders, and then you look at Auburn defense that hasn't been very good in that regard, that feels like an area that you must find a way to exploit. This LSU offensive line is going to have to be great once again. The pass defense reads very well on paper. 2nd in the SEC. Just 220 yards per game. But interestingly, the rating's a bit higher than you would think from that total output. Also, they don't rush the passer particularly well. I want to say that they are 11th in sacks. They have just 8 sacks on the year. So to me, the 220 yards given up to the air per game, although that ranks 2nd in the SEC, a lot of that feels like kind of based on their schedule, right? They played UGA, Kentucky, Arkansas, South Carolina, and Ole Miss. Outside of Ole Miss, nobody in that group bringing a ton of passing success to bear. They're the 2nd most penalized team in the SEC, so they're not particularly disciplined. They are positive in the turnover department, +2, not as good as LSU. They're 10th in time of possession, so they're not really controlling games. I mentioned that 8 sacks in a year, that's 11th. They're 10th in sacks allowed. They've given up 12 sacks on the year. You would, again, have to imagine that LSU has been excellent in that department this year. They lead the SEC in sacks. If you're talking about areas to exploit, you now have LSU running the ball and LSU rushing the passer as well. Ojulari, Andre Anthony, these guys should be able to get home again. Ali Gay, they should be able to get home again this week. They're 6th in the SEC, converting 47% of their third downs, which is far better than LSU. So when you're talking about keys to the game, why did LSU look so much better defensively against South Carolina, even with the mistakes? Is that when they had to be situationally, although South Carolina moved the ball on third down, LSU was excellent. I think South Carolina finished, like 3 of 10, 3 of 13, somewhere around there.
I think it was 4 of 10. No, maybe it was 3 of 10.
I'm pretty sure it was only 3. But either way, LSU did a much better job in that regard. And here's where LSU must, again, do what they did last game offensively. So remember, LSU 0 of 10 on third down 2 games ago, 8 of 10 last week. They should be closer to that 8 of 10 this week. Auburn right now is almost dead last in the SEC. They are, remember, we mentioned the Tennessee Titans giving up 60% opponent conversion rate. Auburn is allowing opponents to convert on 57% of their third down. So you have better than a coin flip's chance of moving the chains. LSU is only converting at a 43% clip. So like LSU doesn't seem particularly well suited to taking advantage of that weakness, but they still must. And to be fair, they've done a good job of identifying problem areas and then showing some immediate improvement in those problem areas. Let's talk about Bo Nix. It's just nothing impressive right now. I mean, 58% completion, 220 yards a game, as we said, 6 touchdowns, 4 INTs. Not that threatening. On the ground, he averages 3.8 yards per carry, 38 yards. Now, sacks are going to knock some of that down, and certainly his legs remain a weapon, especially against this team where it feels like you could probably confuse them, bounce around the edge, and run for 70 yards. But like Bo Nix is not good. This offense really, quite frankly, is not good at all, especially compared to the offenses that you're going to see. Now, there are a couple players outside of Nix that you obviously like, though. Seth Williams would be one. He's 7th in the SEC right now, 88 yards per game. He's got a really nice stat line in the year, 24 grabs already, 440 yards, almost 20 yards catch, 3 scores. But really, when I was looking up Seth Williams stats, I just realized what a beast Terrace Marshall is. First in the SEC by far, averaging 128 per. First in the SEC by far with 9 touchdown catches. He has 7 catches per game right now, and he's averaging 18 yards a catch. Terrace Marshall, you are the man. The guy that I'm worried about offensively for Auburn, from Auburn, I should say, is Tank Bigsby, the freshman running back right now. 86 yards a game. That's good for 5th in the SEC, but more impressively, he's almost averaging 6 yards a carry. And think about that. He's averaging 6 yards a carry on an offense that doesn't really have a great threat besides him. Like, it's not like Bo Nix is tearing up through the air and teams are having to respect that, and so Tank Bigsby has these easy boxes to run into. It's not the case at all. Tank Bigsby's averaging 6 yards a carry when everybody knows you need to stop Tank Bigsby. And that's very impressive, and it's a little terrifying when you look. So we've kind of highlighted where LSU's strong, where Auburn's weak. Well, LSU's been really bad in run defense, and Auburn looks perfectly positioned to take advantage. And before you come at me with any rush defensive statistics for LSU, don't do that, because 9 yards against Mississippi State really kind of throws all those season numbers out the window, because that is not at all representative of your defensive performance thus far this year. As far as Auburn's defense goes, they got a couple nice linebackers, Jacoby McClain and Owen Papo. They are actually 2nd and 4th in the SEC in tackles. Do y'all know how far down the player leaderboard you have to go to find an LSU player?
I'd imagine pretty far.
Just give it like a guess. I want to see where your head's at. Okay, no. Okay, 15. Okay, no, 24th. I think Jacoby Stevens is like the 24th. Now, granted, they played a less game, but he's like the 24th player in the SEC right now. And then Damone Clark and Jabril Cox are right there with him. And then they got an outside linebacker, Colby Wooden, who leads its SEC and TFLs with 6.5. How about, I didn't realize, B.J. Ojulari leads the SEC in sacks after the 3-sack performance. He's now got 4 in the year, averaging 1 per game. Shout out to the freshman. Again, area to exploit. Ojulari, Andre Anthony, Ali Gay, Ray Thornton, those guys have got to be great off the edge again. You can get to Auburn. In terms of where LSU has to improve, we talk about it all week. The main goal has to be up the middle. I need more impact from the interior defensive line. I need more aggression and more dictating to the offense from the linebackers. And I just need more discipline, better run fits, and just better overall spatial awareness from the safeties. This is an LSU defense that still does some things right, to where if you could improve in these areas, you could get to be okay, maybe even good. It's impossible to say if you're there right now. That said, did anything about what I just read scare you about Auburn? They don't do anything particularly well. They're shockingly close to being 1-4. LSU should win this game. They should win this game. There's no excuse if they do not. Stick around. Close out the show next here on OTBOT.
OTBOT.